Smart city. We have expert with us from industry, banking sector, the government sector, corporation, the international perspective, and developer perspective also. So, at the chair of the session, we invite Shri UPS Madan, Metropolitan Commissioner of MMRDA, Mumbai Metropolitan Region Development Authority. We also invite our guest from Udaipur, Shri Siddharth Sihag, IAS Municipal Commissioner and CEO SPV of Smart City, Udaipur Municipal Corporation. Round of applause for Mr. Sihag. I invite Srimati Anita Dagade Patil, Additional Municipal Commissioner and CEO SPV of Smart City, Sholapur Municipal Corporation. Has she reached? No. I invite His Excellency Mr. Adil Sabri Agan, Consul General of Turkey. A round of applause for him. Do we have Mr. Mayur Shah with us? Mayur Shah, President of MCHI Kredai. Okay. Now I invite our principal banking partner. I invite Shri Ashish Saxena, Product Head of ICICI Bank, for a presentation. Before that, I invite other guests on stage. I invite Shri Prakash Rane, Managing Director of ABM Knowledgeware Limited, to be on stage. Mr. Prakash Rane, round of applause. Then Shri Gautam Grodia, Chief Executive Officer of Comsor. It's a security company, and Mr. Garodia is a very interesting speaker that you all will get to know. A round of applause for Mr. Garodia, please. Before I hand over the session to our Honorable Chair, I request Ashish Saxena, Product Head, to present Product Head of ICICI Bank for a 10 minutes of presentation. And we have one more guest from Andhra Pradesh to join us in this session. We have Shri Balaji D. Manjule, IAS, Deputy Secretary of Department of Agriculture, Government of Andhra Pradesh, to join us on stage. Now, Mr. Ashish Saxena, Product Head of ICICI Bank.
Respected sirs, ma'am, and good afternoon, friends. I'll take you a small presentation on our key relationship with the government banking, and I'll share our learnings on the e-governance so far what we have. So we are one of the authorized banker who are collecting for our direct and indirect taxes. We are the accredited banker from the Ministry of Civil Aviation, Ministry of Rural Development. We are also handling Sarshisha Abhiyan, midday meal. We are one of the bankers who are handling the freight corridor in the western region. We are the collection bankers. So we have some of the large relationships on the government banking side, which makes us relevant as a part of a government banking. Coming on to straight to the topic, our learnings are variety of learnings. I'll just touching some of you. We start with the transport system. One of the basic one is the transport, where you'll see congestions, how to go about it. So we have seen that we have implemented certain solutions on the card solutions, through using which the people can pay, a normal citizen can pay using a card. Not only card, it has to be a RFID enabled card, which makes the card smart. So there is no need to swipe the card, it simply has to go about it. We have also seen certain sectors that certain mobile apps are coming to pay the citizen service, like we have seen in the morning, KDMC has also launched a mobile app. We also seen the growth in this segment. We also seen the use of an e-wallet while making the payment. We have seen that the consumers are known what is happening and they want to have a seamless way of doing the transaction so that a real-time confirmation goes to the portal. Those kind of areas we have seen the use of e-wallet is going. We have seen the smart terminals where the person can come and make a payment on their own. We have also seen a couple of requirements in case of affordable housing. The normal consumers, the credit ratings are not good, their documents are not good. We are able to work with the corporations, figure out a customized solution for such a kind of corporation to have a relaxed credit rating or relaxed set of documents via which the loans could be given to the housing sector. As far as our relationship with Maharashtra is concerned, we are more than 10 years old. We have 615 branches, 45% branches in semi-urban and rural areas. We have type of cards which are Kisan Credit Card, Agri Loans. We are one of the best technology bank awarded by IBA. Some of the key relationship in Maharashtra per se, we are banker to the 25 corporations out of 26. We are collecting local body tax. We handle the e-auctions in the government of Maharashtra for the first time. We are handling from last 4 or 5 years. We enabled the e-trending in the PWD and the government of Maharashtra. We have given a customized solution for a Directorate of Industries with respect to packing scheme. I'm coming straight to the solutions, what we have seen far. These are some of the solutions which we feel are relevant from an e-governance point of view. If you talk about the local body tax, what we have seen, the consumer can pay online, at the same time consumer can pay offline. So he can walk across to any of the ICICI Bank branches even and pay offline. Offline doesn't mean that it will get disconnected from the main application. We are able to validate on a real-time basis with the municipal corporation application whether the property tax or water tax number is correct or not, accept the payment, give a real-time response back to the corporation and a receipt back to the consumer. This gives an additional touch points to all the consumer that he can walk across to any of the ICICI Bank branch and make a payment. Once the solution is live, it is live pan-India. So a person residing in Kalyan, he can pay even a property tax, water tax payment even in Chennai. So the solution is universal in nature. All the ICICI Bank branches become available to him with a real-time validation so that there is no reconciliation issues left out thereafter. If we talk about the e-toll, what we just discussed, we already implemented in Mumbai-Pune Express Highway, somewhere in Ahmedabad also. How it actually helps is that when the vehicle comes in, it validates whether it is valid or not. If it is valid, then it gets invalid, it doesn't get passed through. If it is valid, it gets passed through. At that time of time, not only the card gateway gets validated with the card application, whether the data server is correct or not, also the accounting entry gets passed through it. So the accounting entry also, the corporation account gets created on a real-time basis or a T+1 depending on the type of arrangement. So the entire thing works in a seamless fashion without any manual intervention. So there is no need for you to stop the vehicle, do anything. Coming on to the e-trending, so we are live in this segment from past 4 or 5 years. We have migrated the entire offline collection of payments or the collection of EMD to an e-banking part of thing. We are live with n number of corporations. We are live at a 4 state level. We have 4 mandates. So not only the collection of EMDs, but also the payment back to the bidder in case of unsuccessful refund. Everything gets automated in this manner. So we not only activate the payment gateway, which is traditionally net banking cards, we activate RTS and FT also, which makes that module robust, so the bidder can make a payment from any of the from his bank only. We have seen some of the farmer payments also, where corporations can give us the data through electronically, and we are able to push the money electronically back to the farmers along with the validation. Even if a check payment is happening, we are able to validate the check details, whether this is matching or not, at least a check number and amount. So the fraudulent thing goes down to a considerable term, because nobody can temper the amount or the date, whether it is 5,000 or 50,000. It goes validated to the system, only then it's cleared. When a data is updated also on a real-time basis, how much is paid and how much is unpaid. It's happening. We are one of the best retail bank in India in the Asian Banking Excellence. So some of the awards that we have, I just try to touch base upon some of the e-governance themes what we had touched about. So we have seen the people are moving from a manual upload to a host to host. Then we have seen a web services based application. We are now seeing API. In the journey we have seen, we have come across the apps, we have come across the portal. Everywhere we have participated in this thing, and somewhere or another it's live with us, with some other clients. We bring on the table not only the products, but also our experience and learnings on the table to the client to help you in overall achieve the e-governance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ashish Saxena. Now, I invite Mr. Prakash Rane from ABM Knowledgeware for a small address or presentation. A round of applause for him, please.
Distinguished dais and respected dignitaries in the audience, good afternoon to you all. My name is Prakash Rane. I will be taking around 10 minutes of yours. I am founder and managing director of a company called ABM Knowledgeware Limited. We are the privileged partners of KDMC, where we did the e-governance project in 2002 and went on to implement in rest of the almost 230 urban local bodies in Maharashtra. In last 3 years, these 230 urban local bodies have carried out financial transactions covering almost 6,000 crore rupees and citizen services of almost 6 crore citizen services have been delivered. We are also one of the few companies in the country who has been selected by almost 4 states for statewide replication of urban local bodies, and we are partnering almost 850 urban local bodies in India to carry out their e-governance in the e-municipality. All of us, we know the word smart city is being coined, being talked about for last almost 2 years. And the fact is that we are still grappling with precisely what is the definition or what are the tangible ways of arriving at there. So I would try and look at a little more tangible things which we can touch and feel about smart city. Now, smart city has an integral part which is also called as Internet of Things, IoT. And nowadays, IoT is being expanded to be called as Internet of Everything. Now, Internet of Everything is going to be the foundation of the smart city. And it is on the basis of IDC research, it is said that IoE is going to generate $19 trillion value in year 2020. And out of that, public sector will take almost 4.6 trillion as the value to be created under IoE. The importance of these figures is that smart city is not merely about comfort being created, it is a big economic proposition. IoE is already delivering value. In UK, where they had done the smart lighting, the rate of crime has come down by almost 7%. Or in US, where immersive video conferencing was used, the travel cost has come down by almost 15%. So I am repeating the point that smart city is a pure economic proposition, and it is not neither purely a political nor purely a social proposition. It is purely economical position. There is a lot of value which is being created in smart city. If you look at the distribution of civilian benefits in smart city, the cities are going to get 63% of the total civilian benefits of the smart city. That is why we are here in a city called as Kalyan Dombivli, or that is what is going to be playing the important role. The federal government is going to get, the central government will get 15% of the civilian benefits arising out of smart city, and the states are going to get 22% of the civilian benefits that are going to be generated out. So it is going to make a strong impact on cities, and there are all the reasons why cities should be the one who should be doing that. Now, what is exactly IoE doing, Internet of Everything or Internet of Things which we are saying? It is putting together the people, processes, data and things. If you see the way machine to machine is connected, or the way person to machine is connected, or person to person is connected, there is going to be a lot of value which will be created, which is going to be part and parcel of the implementation of the smart city. If you look at typical government situation or public sector situation and look at machine-to-machine connectivity, when we say I'm going to do a smart building which will control electricity consumption, or I'm going to do some kind of a smart lighting, now these are actually the machine-to-machine connections which will be done under smart city, which are going to result into lower operational cost. Or if you look at machine-to-people connectivity, which is under the Internet of Everything, video surveillance. If I capture the video images in a crowd and do video analytics and assess a possible danger or a possible mishap happening, that is how the machine-to-people will work. And people-to-people is a standard methodology where you can bring your own device and connect to a particular network, or you do teleworking. Now, these are the possibilities in smart city under Internet of Everything. Now, this subject has been discussed quite a lot, but I'll just run through this quickly. It is not about 100 cities in India. It is not about the 20 cities identified today. There are trends which are indicating that smart city is something which nobody can avoid. What are those trends? We just heard Mr. Ravindran speaking about that loss of talent from Kalyan Dombili. So if you want talented people to stay in Kalyan Dombili or any other city for that matter, it is extremely necessary that we create an ecosystem which is vibrant, and that can be created if the startups or the young generation come here. Smart city has an inbuilt advantage that it creates innovative ecosystem. It creates industry expertise. That's why cities are going to compete against each other for retaining the talented workers, and smart city is going to be one of the immediate reasons which will help. It is not a secret that there is a traffic congestion. Traffic congestion is there on the road, traffic congestion is there on the air, traffic congestion is there in the schools, traffic congestion is there in the hospitals. There is a traffic congestion even in the water lines. So traffic congestion is any kind of a civic infrastructure is under stress, and you cannot meet the increasing demand. So the only method to manage within the existing infrastructure is to do more in less, and that is only the technology of the smart city which is going to give the solution. Now, there is an international magazine called Nature. It has come out with a report that Earth will pass climate departure in 2047. What it means is, in 2047, the coldest year will be hotter than the coldest year prior to 2005, which means the energy efficiency and carbon emissions are going to be extremely urgent issues. Countries like Nigeria or places like Lagos, they are going to pass the climate departure in 15 to 16 years. There is no choice but to manage energy more efficiently and control the carbon emission. The solution again is smart city. And then there's an issue of digital divide. We have a youth today who wants the city in his pocket. He wants to book hotel on his smartphone. He wants to tweet with the politician on the smartphone. He wants to register a pothole complaint on his smartphone. And on the other hand, you have elderly people who do not have comfort with the IT infrastructure, or you have poor people who do not have access to this. So we need to bridge the digital divide. Now, the political leadership on one hand has to manage the youth and the personal consistent experience on his smartphone which he wants, and on the other hand, the administration has to take care of the walk-in counters or the offices which needs to do. So these are the 4 trends which are driving smart cities. Now, coming to certain more tangible points about smart cities. How will it benefit? It will automate connections. What I mean here is, today, if you want to call somebody, call a doctor, when you don't feel well, you call a doctor. But imagine a situation that there is a wearable computer which is put into the patient's body, like Apple Watch. And if the message directly goes to the doctor that some parameters are doing bad, the doctor will be able to take a preventive action. It will reduce the crowd into the hospital. It will probably help the life, and preventive measure is always better than the corrective measure. So it will automate connections. You don't have to proactively do connections, it will automate connection. Second is faster personal communication and decision making. Let's look at the fire brigade. If the disaster management is appropriately implemented, and if you have the firefighters who are fitted with sensors where they proactively come to know that in a particular location you have the percentage of carbon monoxide reaching a lethal level, then he will reach that particular spot much before the fire breaks out. It will be easier, there will be no traffic congestion, there will be no emergencies. The third benefit which stakeholder will get is it will uncover new information. There is a well-known case study in San Francisco where the San Francisco police had identified certain area which is highly prone for gun violence. They were under firm impression that they are getting 80% of the calls from the citizens which report the gun violence, gunshots. Then they implemented an acoustic sensor which was calibrated to detect gunshots. And then they realized that it was only 10% of the calls that they were getting for the gunshots which were heard in their premises. Which means the information which they had about the gun violence in a particular area was wrong 8 times. And hence they were not deploying the police force in that particular manner. After getting this information, which I call as uncovering new information, the police deployment or the methodologies to control the gun violence in that area was controlled. Now this is another way how the stakeholders will benefit when smart city is implemented the way it has to be implemented. We are into IT industry, we are practitioners. We find a lot of tenders being floated by a lot of states. And we must agree that there is not a lot of clarity yet. As of now, if you look at some international studies, which would include India also, no city has reached the extreme right stages of managed and optimized stage. There are the stages which a smart city will go through is ad hoc stage, then opportunistic stage, repeatable stage, managed stage, and optimized stage. I don't even discuss the managed and optimized stage because that's an ultimate situation where a city will be able to have competitive advantage having implemented smart city, or it will be able to do predictive analysis and avoid take certain policy decisions. I don't even talk about that situation. We are probably at an ad hoc situation. An ad hoc situation would actually mean that it will be done in silos. The experience shows that there is nothing wrong about it. What will you get at the end of ad hoc policy is you will get certain pilots which are successful. You will get benefit. It can be a small smart parking area. It can be another small initiative. On the basis of this, you will move to what is called an opportunistic maturity model, where the stakeholder will do larger buy-in. It will be spread across the organization. And probably the benefits would be a little more sustainable compared to the first 2 stages. And the third stage is repeatable stage, where you do integrated smart city implementation, which can be replicated. I don't want to discuss the next 2 stages for the obvious reason. Now let's take a case study of Barcelona. In 2011, Xavier Trias, the mayor of Barcelona, had a vision for smart city. So he had 3 fundamental pillars. One is local projects, which means he focused only on the local city and the technological projects which will benefit only on the local city. Secondly, international vision. He wanted to create a platform which is replicable, which can be repeated and which can be easily replicated. That was his international vision. It was limited to Europe. So probably he wanted to take it to the other countries in Europe. And third, very interesting thing he did, he wanted to create technological standardization specifically for cities. I have not come across this kind of a vision where technological standardization is being done specifically for cities. Now, these are the 3 pillars on which Xavier had built his vision for smart city. There were 2 important things which were done by him. One was he reorganized the city council and created what is called an urban habitat department, which he also called a smart city department. And in the smart city department, he integrated environment department, urban planning department, he integrated a transportation department and IT and administration. So as a result of which, if you take a particular street, what happens is that department is responsible for lighting on the streets, parking on the street, maintenance of the street. So this particular urban habitat or smart city department was not working in silos. He could succeed in doing that. I'm sure that there are problems we have here when we want to break multiple silos and bring them together. But this is one of the learning as available in the international case studies. And second thing was there was smart regulation done. The government had actually passed a bylaw called as MES. Now this is something very interesting. We do this in a very informal and unstructured manner. But what the Spanish government had done is they did a bylaw called MES, Mobility, E-Governance and Smart City. Everybody knew that it will be implemented, but it may not sustain. So for institutionalization, they passed this particular bylaw. And what were the results? All of us, we know that the country as such was not doing very well. They were under sovereign debt. But an intrinsic rating done by the probably Standard & Poor for Barcelona was AAA. And because of the condition of the country they were into, it was downgraded to BBB. That was the country only after London and Paris which got the maximum amount of investment into their particular state. The second benefit was there was a lot of benefits they got in terms of job creation, and these are the proofs of the implementation of smart city, success of implementation of smart city. The smart city policy landscape in India is very well known to everybody. It is the Hriday scheme, smart city, Amrut, the industrial corridor and economic corridor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rane. As we all know that you are closely working with KDMC on the governance solutions of the corporation. Thank you very much for this presentation. Now I invite security expert, Shri Gautam Garodia, CEO of Comsor. He will talk on loss, security and loss prevention, crime and loss prevention. It will be an interesting presentation, but I request you to please keep it within 10 minutes. Thank you. A round of applause for Mr. Garodia.
So while this loads, good afternoon everybody, namaskar, delegates and the dais, dignitaries on the dais, dignitaries on the other side. I have a very, very simple philosophy. I'm going to start, I'm not going to take your time before the PowerPoint starts, because I'm going to speak to you about one simple philosophy, that if people do not audit their CCTV, and this is a very, very new concept in the world. If you do not audit CCTV, you will continue to suffer. This may sound very harsh, but the fact of the matter is that people do not get benefit from CCTV because they do not audit CCTV. And I'm going to start my presentation proving my point की जर तुम्ही CCTVला पाहिलं नाही, कॅमेरानी जे पाहिलं जे तुम्ही पाहिलं नाही, तर ते पैसे तुम्ही वेस्ट करतात, मी तुम्हाला सांगतो. हॅपी न्यू इयर. जरा उशीर आहे वर्षामध्ये हॅपी न्यू इयर सण म्हणायला, जूनचा महिना आहे. सो आय एम नॉट सेइंग हॅपी न्यू इयर टू यू, बट दिस इज एक्झॅक्टली व्हॉट द क्रिमिनल सेड to a bank in Agra. When they looted that bank on the 1st of January, they took away 27 lakh of rupees from the bank, and they also took away the recorder. And look at the cheek of these people. After taking away the recorder, they went and gave the branch manager a Happy New Year card. So my very basic question to all of you is that if this thing could happen with the cameras, of what use are those cameras? I cannot not speak about the Pathankot attack. I have to talk about the Pathankot attack. After the investigation, the army found out that there were 11 petrol pumps on the route that the terrorists took. All those petrol pumps had cameras. Now you can imagine, आपण विचार करा की इतकी मोठी घटना रेकी शिवाय कशी होणार? How will such a big incident take place without a recce? This must have gone on for months and nobody realized it, in spite of having so many cameras. Take the case of our HRD Minister Mrs. Irani in a store in Goa. What was the fault of the camera? Nothing. The perpetrator only shifted the angle of the camera. Instead of looking this side, the camera was looking that side. And this went on for 1 year. So 1 year the camera was looking at what it was not supposed to look at. काय उपयोग ह्या कॅमेराचा? The third case is the corporate espionage case in Delhi, Petroleum Ministry. What did they do? They bribed the CCTV operator. So they said, okay, every time we want to steal your secrets, please put off the CCTV cameras. We will come, steal your secrets, and then you can put on your cameras again. I am in Kalyan, so I must speak about this incident that took place in Kalyan in a housing society. A poor little kid died in a housing society which had cameras. And if that happened, of what point are these cameras? A school kid raped in a school. by teachers. We have seen so many such incidents happening in Bangalore, all covered by cameras. So there is something fundamentally wrong. All we think is कुछ घटना घटती है कैमरा बढ़ा दो, घटना घटती है कैमरा बढ़ा दो, फिर भी घटनाएं कम नहीं होती। आप देखिए, न्यूज़पेपर खोलिए, हर रोज आपको कोई ना कोई किस्सा मिलेगा। आप देवनार का किस्सा देखिए, वहां देवनार में क्या हुआ था? What happened in Devnar? There was a fire. They wasted so much of water, so much of pollution. When the police did their investigation, they found that the cameras were not there. So our Honorable Chief Minister suggested that they should have new cameras. They put in 12 new cameras. Within 1 month of putting those 12 new cameras, there was another fire. So what sense was that entire exercise? Everybody talks about city surveillance. Mumbai has 6,000 cameras in the city after 7 years of after the 26/11 attack. 6,000 cameras. Kalyan is going to have about 671 cameras because some consultant suggested that you should have 671 cameras in a central surveillance. My fundamental question to all of you is, are 671 cameras sufficient for Kalyan? Answer is no. Are 6,000 cameras sufficient for Bombay? Answer is no. Why? Because 2 or 3 things. One is there is something called situational awareness and video blindness. Please remember this. Before you add new cameras, please remember that how will somebody who is sitting in a command and control center realize what is wrong and what is right? त्याला नाही कळणार. 12 मिनिटात माणूस व्हिडिओ ब्लाइंड होऊन जातो 45%. 12 मिनिटात. 22 मिनिटात a person becomes 90% video blind. So he is sitting in front of your command and control center, पण त्याला काही कळत नाही. आणि मी म्हणतो की मुंबईमध्ये 5 लाख कॅमेरा असतील, कल्याणमध्ये 1 लाख कॅमेरा ऑलरेडी असतील, प्रत्येक हाऊसिंग सोसायटीमध्ये आहे, प्रत्येक शाळामध्ये आहे, प्रत्येक ज्वेलरी स्टोअरमध्ये आहे, प्रत्येक बँकमध्ये आहे, त्याला वापरा ना. आणि सेंट्रलाइज करू नका. त्याची फीड पोलीस स्टेशन आणायची चूक करू नका. ते नाही चालणार. What you should do is the following. So moral of the story काय आहे? We are having a lot of problem with this. Okay, so before I go to what is the solution, let me tell you one thing. See the funny part. Some states have got an internal security act. I think Maharashtra is also starting that act. That if you have more than 100 people coming to your establishment, you have to have cameras, which is fine. But there is no act or there is no law that the camera should be working. And this is a problem with the police. Ask the police. जेव्हा घटना घडते आणि पोलीस जाते पाहायला, तेव्हा ते म्हणतात, साहेब आम्ही काय करू, आमचे कॅमेराच बंद होते, आमच्या रेकॉर्ड चोरी करून घेऊन गेले. मग ते काय कामाचं? सो मॉरल ऑफ द स्टोरी काय आहे? सिंपल. सीसीटीव्हीचा ऑडिट सुरू करा. स्टार्ट ऑडिटिंग सीसीटीव्ही. हाऊ मच इन्फॉर्मेशन देर इज इन सीसीटीव्ही? You have a dump over here. Do you know, sir, how many people are going there? How many people are stealing water? How many people are doing things they should not be doing? Kutla alert system chalnar. There is no alert system that gives you all these alerts. Human alert wapra, dole wapra. Backup, smart backup kara. Our technology will allow you to back up your video, same video, in 500% less data size. 500%. आणि incident झाला तो follow a standard incident format which our software can create in PowerPoint so that the crime gets solved quickly. Please remember, cameras only have lenses. Humans have got eyes. So let's ask ourselves one question. Why doesn't anybody audit CCTV? Why? Number one, nobody has thought about it. Nobody has thought about it. We audit our books of accounts, we audit our business processes, but what has got so much information we have forgotten, number one. And number two, it is very difficult to audit. 24 तासाचा व्हिडिओ मी कसं पाहणार? गेल्या दिवसाच्या 24 तासाचे व्हिडिओ कसं पाहणार? But if there is a technology, and that is what we have done, that shows you 24 hours of video in as little as 24 minutes. 24 hours of video you can see in 24 minutes. And once you begin to get used, maybe in 10, 12, 15 minutes in a day. I assure you that. Will you check or will you not check? पाहणार की नाही पाहणार? जर 24 तासाचा व्हिडिओ आपल्याला 24 मिनिटात किंवा अर्ध्या तासात भेटतं, पाहणार की नाही पाहणार? एक स्टँडर्ड ऑपरेटिंग प्रोसिजर करणार की नाही करणार? करा, करा, कारण तेच तुमच्याकडे हा एक उपाय आहे विच विल गिव्ह यू व्हॅल्यू फ्रॉम सीसीटीव्ही. नाहीतर तुमचं सीसीटीव्ही वेस्ट आहे. ही जी इन्फॉर्मेशन कॅमेरा जी त्याला जी भेटते ती वेस्ट होत आहे सध्या. का? वाय नाव? We are living in dangerous times. You must audit. The camera is seeing all this. After the Peshawar school attack, the Pakistan army was sent to guard the schools when the school opened. After the Paris attack, 10,000 people were sent to guard only 700 schools. My question to you is, for how long can the police and the army do this? Everybody has to get involved. If everybody starts auditing CCTV, how much burden of the police will we reduce? Because we all become the extra eyes of the police. We all contribute to community policing. So what is the solution? Our technology, please come down. We have a booth. We are a software. We will work with your existing cameras. You do not have to change a single camera. कुठूनही कॅमेरामध्ये व्हिडिओ फीड आणा, बस ड्रोनवरनं आणा, वायफाय कॅमेरावरनं आणा, कुठलाही कॅमेरा, जुना कॅमेरा, नवीन कॅमेरा, अजून जे प्रोड्यूस नाही झालेला आहे तो कॅमेरा, आवर सॉफ्टवेअर विल वर्क. And what are the outcomes that you will get by auditing? Crime and loss prevention, improvement of your processes, and crime will get solved faster. Okay, very interesting last couple of slides. आपण signs पहा. See the signs of CCTV surveillance. If you just do a Google search, you will find 500 such signs. Different. So no standardization in signs as well. Instead of this kind of sign, think about this kind of sign. We check CCTV every day. Change करा sign ला. मराठीत लिहा. आणि महाराष्ट्र गव्हर्नमेंट मध्ये why should signs be different? एकच कलर, एकच साईज, प्रत्येककडे एकच निरोप. आम्ही सीसीटीव्ही रोज पाहतोय. पाहिला नाही पाहिला ती वेगळी गोष्ट आहे, पण जो येणार आहे तिथे त्याला कळणार नाही की तुम्ही नाही पाहिलं. आता जेव्हा ती ही साईन पाहणार माणूस, तेव्हा तो काय करेल? बाबा हे सोडा, बाजूच्या दुकानात जाऊया, तिथे हीच साईन पाहणार. तिसऱ्या दुकानात जाऊया, मग म्हणणार हा धंदा बरोबर नाही, चोरीचा धंदा बरोबर नाही, दुसरा धंदा काहीतरी शोधूया. एक साईन मुळे स्टँडर्डाइज करा. Okay, coming to the end of my slides, and this is where I request each one of you, please help me here. As a social responsibility, our company has decided to give this software for free to all places of worship world over. So while I thank you for the claps, I would thank you more if you would take part in this, and any mandir, masjid, gurdwara, church, wherever there is CCTV, please approach us. We will give the software for free. We won't be able to come and install it, but we'll train the people to do it. But the software will come to you for free. ComCert for the police, I wish the commissioner was here, but anyway, we are already doing a pilot with Maharashtra Police and with Telangana Police. I'm also very happy to tell you that Mrs. Kiran Bedi was the first one who realized the value, called us to Pondicherry. Last week we were there, and we have installed very successfully for Pondicherry. So and yes, finally, somebody spoke about job opportunity. Mayor Sahib, I think you spoke about job opportunity. See, to create an auditor, you need to be a cost accountant. To create a CCTV auditor, you only need a pair of eyes and a mind and situational awareness. So people, young girls and boys, 10th standard pass, 12th standard pass, who have not had the opportunity to go up in life in education, make them CCTV auditors. एक नवीन कोर्स सुरू करा. दोन फायदे होणार, जॉब क्रिएशन होईल आणि क्राइम तुमचं कमी होईल. Finally, very proudly made in India software. So this is not a software which we have brought from some company, some country and selling it to our Indian. And स्वच्छता से सुरक्षा तक ये सॉफ्टवेयर आपको काम आएगा. सिर्फ सीसीटीवी ऑडिट करना शुरू कीजिए. थैंक यू वेरी मच. जय हिंद, जय महाराष्ट्र.
Thank you, Mr. Garodia. And now with this, I hand over the session to a person who is being called a father of reforms in Kalyan Dombivli. He was a commissioner who did reforms, big reforms as a commissioner of Kalyan Dombivli. Our session chair, Mr. UPS Madan. A round of applause for him. Over to you, sir, for 45 minutes of panel discussion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to you. I have a very challenging task before me. In fact, when I read this schedule, my session was supposed to be over by 1:30, so I'm starting at 1:55. So I'll try my best to make it short so that we can have lunch at as early as possible. We have come a long way from understanding the smart city concept when it was treated as an elephant in a dark room. Now in the last year and a half, a lot of churning has taken place, and the Government of India also has come up with a set of guidelines explaining what a smart city is and what is required to create smartness in a city, what is required to add smartness to an existing smart city. There is no 100% achievement of smartness. Every city is at certain level of smartness. There is no 0%, there is no dumb city, there is no brilliant city. We have a different level of smartness, and the objective and the idea is to add more and more smartness to that. And therefore, each city, depending upon their level of smartness, depending upon their requirement, depending upon their capacity, tries to add certain things so that it can become a better city and the life of the citizens can become better. We have very learned people on the panel. We already have seen 3 presentations on different aspects, and we have 4 more panelists who would like to share their views. We have now Municipal Commissioner who has come from Udaipur Municipal Corporation in Rajasthan. So we can first see his views and his experience in what way they are trying to achieve smartness for their city. Mr. Siddharth Sihag.
Thank you, sir. So in the last 6 months, we worked with a lot of consultants while preparing our smart city proposal, and continuously now that we're in the implementation mode. So I thought that working with them, one thing that I've learned is that it's easy to make someone understand something if you develop a jargon around it. So what we need, so what goes into making of a smart city, I think can be broken down into 5 P's. The first P obviously is planning. What happens in the rest of the world is that there's an 80-20 planning to implementation ratio. So if you've planned out what you're going to do in an effective manner, then you only need 20% of your energy and your time to implement what you have already planned out. In India, because we are the king of Jugaad, it usually is the other way around. In public administration, there's a concept of muddling through, which explains our way of working quite appropriately, I think. But in this case, the process that was designed was in a way that you were forced to. Someone in the previous session asked about botanical gardens, that what process did you adopt while deciding upon the fact that this botanical garden is required. And I am sure that some of the times you do applaud your corporations and your governments for coming up with certain decisions, and certain other times you are left a little surprised, a little baffled at the kind of decisions that have been taken. So what happened in Smart City, as was explained by Ravindran sir also, that a lot of the decision-making process was devolved onto the citizens and they were made direct stakeholders into the process. So as in the case of Kalyan, where approximately 150,000 suggestions were received, in Udaipur also we received 125,000 suggestions. Now Udaipur is a city with a population base of around 5 lakhs. And if you look at 125,000 suggestions, you translate that into a family size of around 4 or 5. So basically 60 to 70% of the families were somehow or the other involved in the making of the plan. So that's a huge base. And it is also the first time that in municipalities what happens is that a lot of your time goes into firefighting and daily balancing of interests. So your vision is not focused on the big picture as much as you would like it to be. Now, because of this process, we were forced to take a look at that big picture. So that is the first P. The second P, which kind of continually flows from the participation bit and the planning bit, is people. Now, I already mentioned the kind of citizen consultation that took place. Why it was important to do that is because of the area that we are going to work in. A lot of our cities have those old residential areas, those old heritage areas where you do not have the kind of road space that you would like to execute your projects. For example, your 24/7 water supply, your 100% sewerage networks, undergrounding of your electrical facilities, or your utility ducts, that cannot happen when you do not have the requisite space to do that. So you need the citizenry on your side because you're going to put them at a certain level of discomfort over the next 2 or 3 years, so they need to understand what they are going to get after these years. So it is very important to have people on your side, as the Honorable Minister was also mentioning in the morning. Next, the involvement of citizen also necessarily brings along with it the challenge of bringing the political class on board, which brings me to my third P, which is political will and vision. There are going to be a lot of practical difficulties in implementing the smart city vision. And unless you have the support of the local citizenry as represented by their local councillor, you're not going to be able to translate that vision effectively. For example, just to showcase one aspect of this implementation, you're going to have to select which area are you going to start working in first. To do that, you need to have all your electrical companies, your water companies, your sewerage wallas, everyone needs to be on board. Plus the police needs to be brought on board because they have to regulate the traffic, they have to manage everything. And the political class needs to kind of manage everything, manage people's expectations, and let them know that this temporary difficulty is going to lead to a phase which is going to transform the living standards of that area. This political will is also because SPV, as was mentioned in the morning, this is not just an exercise where you're going to pump money into something just for the sake of it. It is essentially a business model. There is a lot of opportunity here to make a lot of gains for the city and for its local population. So, and that political will gets demonstrated in various different ways. For example, in the fiscal prudence with which the city is operated. To give an example, Udaipur currently is one of the very few municipal corporations in Rajasthan that is not in the red. We currently have a surplus of around 90 crores, which has been brought up and consolidated from the first board onwards. So now every mayor has that responsibility that my tenure should not be remembered as the time when the coffers were emptied out. Secondly, you have solutions like your UD tax, which is called the local government tax, I believe, in Maharashtra. We managed to triple the collections of our UD tax in the last year alone. And in the case of Kota, my colleague is here, they managed to increase that amount by over 10 times. So you cannot do that without having the political will backing you. Fourthly, you need to have the power of leveraging, which is what I believe the smart cities mission is all about. You could have pumped this money through various different mechanisms, but by branding it and packaging it in this manner, it helps you gain access to resources and to funds that you might not have been able to otherwise. For example, since we got selected, there have been various corporations and government agencies coming forward to support us in ways that was not happening previously. We had a convergence plan of around 500 crores. Now, over and above that convergence plan, we've got additional funds for construction of command and control center, which is being done entirely at the state level now. The optical fiber network is going to be laid down entirely at the state level. We've got twice the amount of funds that we were slated to receive in Amrit previously. We've got 13 times the amount that we are going to get under IPDS. And we have got another 120 crores sanctioned for river development, under another 120 crores for city roads. So that is the kind of leveraging that one needs to do. Also, it helps if you have a realistic plan for smart cities. It was mentioned in the morning, although my Marathi is not, I am not a native Marathi speaker, but from the little that I could pick up, I sensed that what was being said was that there should not be a lot of show, and what should be done should be reflected as being on the ground and should be something which actually affects people's lives and leads to something better. Now, in doing that, what we need to focus on is my fifth point, which is about products and processes. I am sure a lot of us have been brought together here because of the Smart Cities program, and a lot of opportunities exist. But these opportunities will have to be filtered through the prism of implementability and the city's own needs. And here I would like to request you, all the companies that are here, to kindly look at a city's profile and try to channel your product as per the need of that city, so that the time that goes on in the exploratory meetings and trying to understand one another, that time can be shortened and we can get to the business end of things. Because in the last 6 months, there have been a lot of meetings, but those meetings somehow do not translate into the kind of action that we would like to see on the ground. With this, I think these are the 5 ingredients that I would have liked to flag, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, great, Siddharth. So we have 5 P's, planning, public consultation, political will, packaging and processes. These are 5 very key messages coming from Udaipur. Very well said. And now we have some international experience from Turkey. The Consul General, Mr. Ergin, is here. So we can see his experience in Turkey and in what manner Turkey can help perhaps Kalyan in achieving its objectives of making itself a smart city.
Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be here. As I said, it's the first time I come here, but I do definitely want to come back. I'm a diplomat, but actually in my family there are various city planners, and hopefully my son will be one as well. He's in Brussels. He says he's studying. I believe him. Hopefully he's doing just that. So he's studying city planning. For us, of course, the most important thing about a smart city is convenience. Most people are not greedy. Most people want just a plot of land where they can live decently and conveniently, going to, accessing services, going to their jobs, etc. Turkey has had very recent experience in becoming from a very agricultural society to very urban society. So in kind of 30 years, we have had from 35% urban to 75% urban. That's huge. So how did we handle it? Sometimes not that well. I must say we had our ups and downs. Turkey is, for example, an earthquake zone, and some city planners decided in their planning to move the earthquake fault line. How can you move the earthquake fault line? That is nonsense. So the government went to them, you cannot do that. So we had our lessons learned. But right now, if you go to Turkey, it's extremely well connected with the road network. The cities are growing in a planned fashion. And of course, how many times can you plan a city from zero? I mean, Andhra Pradesh, etc., or Chhattisgarh. But normally, our cities grow organically. So it starts from somewhere, and as the people from the agricultural land come to the urban cities, we have to grow. They have to find a place. And you have to give them this place. They will not go back. And this is where planning is very important, so that this accommodation and roads are connecting everybody to everything. Basically, looking from the foreign investors' side, I mean, a country who has been building in many places, Russia, Turkmenistan, we built most of it. Libya, just before the war, we have built most of it. What we want is, of course, money. You know, when you go and you build something, you want the payment to be done. Secondly, the permits. It's very difficult for a foreign company to disentangle the permits issue. Not only in India, any foreign country. So this is connecting to two trends. One is to have a good Indian partner or foreign partner. When we are working here, it is a must. And this partner will be opening many of the doors. The second part of that is the governance and the corporators and the governments. We must be working with the governments who wants us to do our job in the most effective way and in the most convenient way. And that's where we come to what we call political will, implementability. So the plans, as the previous speaker from Udaipur has been saying, the plans must be implementable so that what we're building needs to be built there, and that the government is behind us so that whatever is being done, we go together as a partner, not only with our work partner, but also with our government partner. It's extremely important. And basically, one simple thing that's called roads, the physical highway. I very much appreciate the electronic highway, the connectivity, etc. And the Chief Minister has been talking a lot about this. But the physical highway, or the roads, railroads, or connectivity with the sea will be extremely important for where the people want to live. So if you're building a building and you want to sell it, they must be going to their work from there. So basically, I would like to wrap up this by saying that what we are doing, what you are doing, what the planners are trying to do is to increase the living standards of the people. And we, as foreign contractors, are part of a team that will make this happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Consul General again. This was very useful. So we have a few mantras from Turkey, which is connectivity, public transport, which is a must, good governance, implementable plans, not only artificial plans, and of course the standard of living has to go up. So that's what is required to make a smart city. So now we have President-elect of MCHI CREDAI Mumbai, Shri Mayur Shah. So I would request him to give his views on what role that developers industry can play in this.
Thank you, Madan sir. As a real estate developer, MCHI and CREDAI I am representing, when I saw a smart city presentation on KDMC, it was very, very exciting. Why? It is a dream come true for a real estate developer. Seeing the major hurdles for a home buyer is always buyer's problem of a connectivity. particularly when we really come to the distant suburbs beyond Thane, KDMC and all. The major problem is that reaching to the railway stations is the biggest issue. And when we see this type of a connectivity which is going to be developed, that I think will really solve the major issue of the people who are living in this KDMC. One suggestion I would like to give is that if you look at any of the suburbs, whether western suburbs or central suburbs, there is always a parallel road connectivity running along the railway line. And that is, I think, is the major problem which we are facing, starting from Thane to Kalyan. And I think we can really have 2 more railway stations. I think, as sir had given in a presentation, that the major problem is people reaching at one station are now increased the number of people reaching at Kalyan or Dombivli. I think we are underutilizing Koper railway station today, and I think there is a scope of 1 more station between Diva and Koper. I think these 2 things will really solve the railway connectivity and create a smart city, a KDMC, a great place. Another thing, a plug-and-play infrastructure. I think every developer would really love to have. The major concern of a real estate developer while making homes is whether मेरे को पानी मिलने वाला है कि नहीं, whether मेरे को इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कहाँ से मिलने वाला है, whether मेरा ड्रेनेज का कनेक्शन कहाँ होने वाला है जब मेरा बिल्डिंग रेडी हो जाएगा. तो वो यदि ये स्मार्ट सिटी का हमारा इनिशिएटिव होगा तो वो मेजर कंसर्न of plug and play infrastructure. 3 major infrastructure which we really require is that water, electricity and drainage. At the same time, in a smart city, if we can include incentive of a green buildings, which has been really a very important thing. In our projects, we have been able to implement water balance, like हमको खाली 40 to 50% नया पानी का ज़रूरत है. 130 लीटर यदि हमको एक आदमी के लिए एक पानी चाहिए पूरे दिन में, then 60 liters can be generated from the sewage treatment plant. But these initiatives, when we are taking as a developer, it's not that easy to maintain finally by the home buyers. So if there is a system in a smart city where the green building initiative of sewage treatment plant, managing their own solid waste management, which also CREDAI has really, all India has been able to clean green skill. These are the 3 initiatives CREDAI has taken up, and they've been able to give this service of managing solid waste management as source. We've been able to implement a pilot project of segregating solid and wet waste. We've been able to give them beans which will really generate a manure out of these wet waste and solid waste. We've been able to teach all society members that you can actually generate an income out of it if you can really segregate properly and recycle it through the scrap dealers. So these are the initiatives, but all these requires a more manpower. Societies and the people who are managing the building affairs will require a cost, and I think certain incentives definitely is required to go through it. Another thing, sir, I saw in your presentation was employment generation. I think the moment you have a great connectivity, reach, IT, biotech park are very possible in KDMC, because the price at which these IT parks or back office operations or BPO operations are looking at are matching with any of the South, Chennai, Hyderabad, Bangalore. We can actually deliver good IT building at 45 rupees a square feet. But the problem there, one other thing IT companies are always stressing is a talent pool. So where is the talent pool? Now this is something which will require a smart city to create engineering, management, colleges, institutions, education societies, which will really generate these type of a talent pool. And I think that will definitely bring IT in a big way in KDMC. And we have seen the good example of Pune, where so much of an education is there, and we've been able to do very successfully IT. So we are, as a developer, as an MCHI CREDAI, we are very excited. KDMC has a 37% of a land which is available, and I think that which is going through the development, which will generate humongous revenue. We have seen, we have done in MCHI, done with Mumbai. If you look at just the fungible FSI, sir, last year generated 5,000 crore. Just one fungible FSI. So the kind of revenue a development of a project or a real estate development can give is humongous. And I think, as sir had rightly pointed out, CM sir, the money should not be a problem. You should have a vision, plan and execution. And I think we all are there with you, sir, and we would really like to see Kalyan Dombivli to be the example of a smart city in India. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayur. Again, emphasis on connectivity, the need for basic infrastructure, and smart cities can be made only by smart buildings. So importance of having smart buildings, and of course employment generation, which is required in particularly in a city like Kalyan, which is a dormitory city, as was said earlier. Thank you very much. And we now, to add some South Indian flavor to our menu, is Mr. Balaji Manjule from Andhra Pradesh. I would request him to share his view.
Good afternoon to all of you. Sarvana Namaskar. I will tell about smart villages. As Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam had put a vision of developed India, developed nation, he had told about Pura, that providing urban amenities to rural areas. So if everything can wait, but agriculture cannot wait. So as a part of smart villages, we have taken, government of Andhra Pradesh has taken 2-3 initiatives which I would like to highlight. First thing, आईचं आरोग्य जर चांगलं असेल तर बाळाचं आरोग्य चांगलं असतं. त्या पद्धतीने जर ज्या शेतातून पिके येणार आहेत त्या शेतीची जी शेती आहे, जी मृदा आहे, ती जर आरोग्यदायी असेल तर ती पिकं कसदार आणि आरोग्यदायी असणार आहेत. त्याचा एक भाग म्हणून ॲट द पार्ट ऑफ सॉइल हेल्थ वी हॅव टेकन इनिशिएटिव्स ऑफ सॉइल हेल्थ अनालिसिस. So in last year, in 1 year, government of Andhra Pradesh has collected 16 lakh soil samples from soil collection for checking to results. In all stages, we have gone, you have used the tabs. So the field level functionaries will collect the data, that collect the soil, and it will send through tabs to agriculture officer. From agriculture officer it will go to laboratory, and from laboratory the results will also go to farmers through SMS and through tab. So farmers can take the printout of that, and on the basis of soil health, the fertilizer recommendations will be given, advice will be given to farmers. So first thing I will tell that if even at field level also, if we use this technology, we can have a sustainable, profitable and inclusive agriculture, because agriculture is related to food security. Second thing, for collection of data, what kind of crop is available in the field, that data will be collected on the tab through multi-level extension officers. So we have appointed around 6,000 multi-purpose extension officers and given 6,000 tabs to them. So what kind of crop is standing in the field, that data will be corrected and will be directly seen by the Chief Minister's dashboard. So if technology will be used effectively, this will help us in policy formulation. Even village level action plan also, we will feed all the data in the tabs at the field level, and it will it will go to taluk level, and from taluk level it will go to district level, and from district level it will go to state level. सो सांगायचा मुद्दा आहे की टेक्नॉलॉजी खेड्यामध्ये शेतकऱ्यांना सुद्धा जर शेती किफायतशीर आणि शाश्वत पद्धतीने करायची असेल तर तंत्रज्ञानाचा वापर करायला पाहिजे. I feel very happy to be here. Thanks KMDC for extending invitation. Thank you one and all.
थँक यू मिस्टर मंजुले. आता इडलीमधून पोहा निघाला असं वाटतंय मला. So while we are talking about smart cities, so it is essential that we do not forget the rural areas. So what Mr. Manjule has given some ideas how the government of Andhra Pradesh is working to improve the life in the rural areas also. So thanks Mr. Manjule. This was a great experience of all of us. Now I'm worried there is no time for questions because there are 7 panelists, and if you start asking questions we'll skip our lunch. So if the organizers permit and all of you agree, we'll wind up here with thanking all my co-panelists for giving wonderful views, thoughts, and sharing their experiences with us. And I'm sure it will be helpful for Kalyan and Dombivli Municipal Corporation to learn from other experiences and achieve their objectives. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Session Chair and eminent panelists. I request Mr. Madan to kindly present mementos to all the speakers on the stage. Firstly, I would like to invite Mr. Ashish Saxena, Product Head of ICICI Bank, to receive a memento. Do we have Mr. Ashish Saxena here? Yeah. Mr. Ashish Saxena. A round of applause for our principal banking partner ICICI Bank. I request for Mr. Siddharth Sehag, IAS of Municipal Commissioner and CEO SPV, Udaipur Municipal Corporation. A round of applause, please. His Excellency Mr. Adel Sabri Yagan, Consul General of Turkey. Shri Mayur Shah, President of MCHI Credai, Mumbai. Shri Prakash Rane, Managing Director of ABM Knowledgeware Limited. Shri Gautam Garodia, Chief Executive Officer of Comsur. Shri D. Balaji Munjale, Deputy Secretary of Agriculture, Government of Andhra Pradesh. Our guest from South. A round of applause for Mr. Manjule, please. Now I request Mr. Sehag to present a memento to our session chair, Shri UPS Madan. A round of applause for this person who has started reforms in Kalyan, Dombivli. Now I'll request for a group photo of all the eminent panelists with the session chair. With the mementos, it will look better, sir. If I request all of you to please. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Now we